And here we go, folks. What has Stadia done this week? We are going to be talking through all the news, lack of news, and other things. But we've also got a very special video to kick things off. So sit back, enjoy, and let's hear all your thoughts on what has Stadia done now.
I like that. That's a good intro.
You see?
Yeah.
What I'm talking about. And you see?
We're down with the kids now.
Yeah, we're down with the cool kids.
No, not the cool kids, just the kids.
Okay.
We're not cool yet.
We're not cool. We're definitely
Haven't
not
made
cool.
it that far.
Oh, another week has come and gone. It doesn't feel like a week. It feels like a much longer because it's been just so jam-packed.
There's been lots of news to get through. This weekend, shout out to Duncan and Barry. I came on for one of the 3 reaction streams they did yesterday. I came off from the middle one, so they've already done one by the time I got there. Duncan's already disappeared. And they had one to do after I'd left. Honestly, brilliant news, wall-to-wall news with Stadia and other cloud services as well. But absolutely incredible. And they're back here tonight. They love live streaming that much.
Oh, he's making another moot point.
But Duncan's on mute again.
It's always better maybe. Yes, it's always better being me on mute now. Barry, how's your week been before we kick all this craziness off? And
this week or the last week?
I don't know. It's just absolutely.
So I honestly don't know anymore. But yeah, obviously it's been a busy few days.
Have you checked in okay?
Have I what? Sorry?
Have you checked in okay to this? Oh, he's just twigged on now. He's just.
Oh dear.
Ruben gave me the idea. Blame Ruben.
Shocking. Absolutely shocking.
No, but sorry. Get back to that. This week, what's your feelings of how this week has gone? Just for you, even just for you.
Well, personally for me, yeah, I've been good. Sun's shining. I've been enjoying it. It's and we've all had fun over the weekend, kind of covering the various bits that we have. So that's been good. Stadia wise, I think we'll come on to that in a minute, won't we? But it's I think it's been topsy turvy.
That is one way of saying it. Just before we kick this all off completely, so I'm remembering here, you're going to be like, subscribe, and all that sort of carry on. And also, if you want to get other people, some of your mates, into this, share out the link here because we want as many people in here as possible, so we can actually have a big, massive conversation with everybody on what has Stadia done this week. Because I think this is going to be a real interesting one. Over the last week, I've put a couple of polls out, and they have got some interesting results. And I think the Stadia community is divided at this moment in time. And
you think?
Yeah, if you've only just realised that something's gone wrong.
Yeah, what I'm meaning is. With the fact of logos and things like that, and I think it'd be good to have a big, massive conversation. So, what I have been teasing is before we kick this all off and talk about Stadia, I think it would be a good idea to see what games. Do we know about coming to Stadia? There's actually 2 versions of this video we are going to show here. The second one hasn't rendered in time. Plus, I haven't finished it, so that's why it hasn't rendered in time.
Just blame the rendering. It's all good.
Just enjoy this one.
Yes. Hope you enjoy this one. Stadia has got games coming. And I hope this actually shows everybody that they do. So here we go. Did I hit this button here? Okay, that would be a wee Stadia.
That's what Stadia's done this week. Right, guys.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Yeah.
No.
There we can go. That is games all coming to Stadia. That is no games which are already on the platform. That is games which are coming. So that is going to be in full proper quality on our YouTube channel after the show. We'll make that live. And touch wood, tomorrow. Excuse me.
Can I just say, just quickly while you choke, I hope you're okay, firstly. Secondly, may I just say, I think that was their best Stadia E3 showcase that we've seen.
Oh, yeah. I think
yes.
I think that was. There's also going to be another trailer tomorrow as well. Before I was choking myself there, which is going to just highlight all the games coming. And I've just realized now I've got an extra game to add in because of that game, which seems to be coming, the dinosaur game, the Second Extinction or whatever it's called. So we will, it's Second Extinction. It's not what it's called.
Yeah, you on about the one that's on Game Pass? Sorry, I know that's a swear word here, but
I'm not sure if it's on Game Pass. There's a dinosaur shitty game coming, so I will get that added.
More dinosaurs. Stadia needs more dinosaurs.
Yes, basically that. So I think it was good to just kick this off just to show that there is games coming to Stadia, and before we delve into the depths of where we are probably going to end up at this moment in time. And there is some good games there, but I can tell you now, I have got every single game trailer at this moment in time of games coming to Stadia, and there is a common theme amongst them for the AAA games. But
should we tackle that right off the bat?
Shall we tackle that off the back? Oh, go positive and talk about the good news.
Very good. Yeah, the good news coming to Stadia. So, obviously E3 and Summer Games Fest this weekend. So there's been plenty of conferences. The one that was probably the most positive for Stadia, and actually Cloud in general, let's be fair, was the Ubisoft conference. I'm not springing a surprise by saying that. They had multiple games announced, release dates for Riders Republic, Far Cry 6 information, and then right at the end they brought out an Avatar game coming out 2022 on Stadia. And was it announced for Luna? I can't remember, but 2022 announced for Stadia, making it one of the first games for Stadia that's been announced that far out.
No, I'm going to say this. It's the only game for Stadia which has been announced.
I wasn't sure if it was the only game, so I thought I'd cover myself by saying one of.
I don't count the other game.
Sky Climbers is the other game he's referring to. What it was in the trailer, wasn't it? You put out.
Yes. Can I just be fair? I may have my opinions on things, but I am fair. Sky Climbers is in that trailer, even though my opinion on the game, I still put it in because I know so many people are looking forward to it and things like that. So I am not discrimination. I just try and put everything out there to the best of my ability. So yes, I am not a fan of Sky Climbers, but
anyway, back to Ubisoft.
Back to Ubisoft.
Yeah. Can we talk about what happened over the weekend?
Yes. I'm actually going to do something nice and positive here. Come on. Yeah. I was going to say, what's the other thing? What's the other thing about Avatar? Barry knows.
They got film coming out. They've had a film coming out next year for the last 5 years, haven't they?
No, Barry. What is it?
I think you're going to mention that with regards to the way that it was developed for next gen only, and how obviously I think you put a kind of tweet out about that, about the possibility as to whether that could indicate for performance upgrades coming for cloud platforms on the basis of it kind of being built for next gen only.
Yeah, next gen only, and it's going to both Stadia and Luna. Again, it's basically all the cloud platform. It's going to GFN, but it hasn't got a logo yet. But
none of the Ubisoft games have GFN logos.
Yes, but they all go.
They all go.
Yeah. So I think that's a real good talking point there. Do you think with this does this mean is Stadia getting a upgrade, or as Gandara says here, Stadia is next gen right now?
I'd need the way I'd calculate is probably the right word. Next gen would be using the infamous teraflop numbers. I hark back to Stadia at GDC 2019, where I think it was Phil Harrison at that point was standing on stage pointing out, I think Stadia had 10.7 teraflops of power, which was more than, at the time, the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro combined. I believe it's on a par. I think PS5 and Xbox Series X might be slightly ahead of 10.7, but of course Stadia could have had upgrades in that time as well. So I think Stadia would be considered always next gen because they can always upgrade the tech behind the scenes.
Well done, Sammy. What about you, Barry?
I am still undecided. I actually think that with regards to that reference, I think that's talking about console only. So, and I think that they've potentially semi-lumped Avatar in with the PC category rather than classifying it as next gen. I could be wrong, of course, but that was kind of the way that I seen it, because I think obviously kind of feels, I mean, obviously at the time that it would launch, it probably feels maybe a fraction early as to where we maybe would have thought there would have been some upgrades behind the scenes. Ultimately, I would say I think it would be brilliant if that's what it was in reference to, because I think it does need maybe that little bit of an uplift. We've seen that recently, and I think kind of if we are talking teraflops, obviously, as Sammy was kind of mentioning there, I think the thing that's worth illustrating, of course, is that teraflop rating that was announced kind of at that GDC conference. It's not entirely all available for GPU processing in terms of what they've listed. So I don't know. I think you're going to find it's going to fall into the PC category. I don't think it bears any relevance to kind of platform upgrades for each of the platform, because as we know already, Luna effectively sits in that kind of, because it's Windows based, kind of sits in that PC category. So I think that's where they've probably seen both of the cloud platforms rather than an upgrade on that front.
So you're thinking it could be even something like this, where they're just trying to cut off current gen if it becomes a live service game, just to make it easier down the line for development and maintaining, because we know Ubisoft is moving towards the gas model, which will probably come to, and as we normally do, and there has been a big massive push towards that. I'm hoping when Avatar comes around, we will be seeing upgrades to Stadia, because even though they've got the raw power there, I think there's something not quite right there, because of the games aren't running as Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5 equivalents. They're still like a generation behind in the PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X sort of level, but with SSDs, which is the sort of balance in that. So it's going to be real fun with that. What other games did you... Again, we don't really know much about Avatar. We do know that it's a first-person game, and I think we're going to get more of that next year, or maybe October, November time, if there's another Ubisoft Forward as a hype train builds towards it. What about the other games which were announced? I'm going to go for one first, which I know you two are going to like. Riders Republic.
I've wanted the release date for that game for a while now. I'm glad we finally got it. September 7th.
Yeah.
And also, rather exciting with Riders Republic, I'm sure you were about to say this, Duncan, but I want to say it anyway. Ubisoft are opening a beta for this game, and that beta will be available on Stadia. It'll be available on PS5, think Xbox as well, PC, but this will be one of the first bases that are available on Stadia.
Here's the question we'll have to start asking ourselves, and this goes back to Gandhar's point in the chat: is Stadia next gen or is it current gen? How many people are going to be in the multiplayer? Because on last gen, it's half what it is on next gen. And hopefully we'll find out in a couple of weeks when this beta kicks off. So I'm throwing people under the bus here. I'm good at this, aren't I?
I think the one thing that we have seen a lot of games that have been released on multiple platforms. One of the main things they've done, especially for Stadia, is increase the multiplayer lobbies. You see that with Grid, with the 40-player endurance racing. You see that Human Fall Flat, you get to 16 people. I think we'll see increased multiplayer on par with next-gen version on Stadia.
Is that where you're heading towards as well, Barry?
Yeah, I was just going to say it's got the capacity in that sense with some of the examples that Sammy put forward there, and I think with the level of craziness that I think Riders Republic wants to bring in terms of that multiplayer element, I think it will, yes, definitely it will be kind of hopefully going towards the masses in terms of the multiplayer lobbies. He's gone on mute again.
He's in mute.
Yes, technically you're right, T. Stadia is always going to be one gen, but I think it's just easier just to talk in next gen and see, version 2s and stuff like that when there's an upgrade, just because it is. There we go. I know, but technically, yes, all cloud gaming will be an current gen, but there's always the kick up in specs. And I think it's easier to say next gen and things like that in regards to that. So that's why we will do that.
I think yeah, as Stadia grows and develops, and as cloud gaming in general grows and develops, I think our terminology is going to have to change. Generation is going to be one of those terms that we drop as gamers. I think by the time we get to PS5, I think by the time we get to PS6, PS7, we'll start, as we see cloud becoming more and more prevalent and more and more successful, generations will kind of go away. You see Sony and Microsoft moving into cloud gaming. I think we're in not the last days, but certainly gearing towards the final days of console gaming.
Riders Republic, Barry.
Yeah. I think.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
Caught me off guard then. I thought it looked like a lot of fun, and I think it brings a lot of different elements. Kind of, there's a lot of different skills and disciplines to it, so I think it gives you that flexibility that maybe, obviously, whilst you're playing through it, you'll have to kind of learn and kind of adapt to the disciplines. But I think people will naturally probably find their preference or where they're most comfortable or where they have their most fun. Whether it be skiboarding, snowboarding, or don't even know where that came from, or whether it's a wingsuit or a bike, whatever. I think there's kind of loads of options, and it's certainly it's an appealing one that's going to sit well in the Ubisoft Plus subscription, isn't it?
Yeah. Speaking of Ubisoft Plus subscriptions, we'll move on to the two games. I'm going to just clump them together because I don't want to say it twice. Rainbow Six. There we go. Both coming to Stadia. Both Rainbow Six, the proper Rainbow Six Siege, is coming in a couple of weeks, and Rainbow Six, what's the name of the game? Extraction.
Oh no,
is coming in the winter sort of time. I'm not going to pretend I remember the dates. I'm not some sort of Duncan bot.
October the 16th, I think. Duncan bot.
Yes. Oh, that's a joke from last night. They're coming up soon here. So Barry, I'll start with you this time.
Yes, I think first and foremost, the fact that June 30th we're going to get Rainbow Six Siege is awesome because we've all been crying out for it, and obviously we know that we're going to have an element of cross-play within there as well. with PC, and I think Luna was included in that as well, if I remember correctly. And then obviously the consoles were kind of separate, so you kind of got one genre of kind of crossplay, and then the console boys can kind of play themselves. So I think it's perfect that we're getting that. I was a little bit disappointed we didn't see anything about Stream Connect, because I really I think you were in the same boat. In fact, I know you were in the same boat. I really wanted to see that. So yeah, I'm sure people will have a tremendous amount of fun with it. And then Extraction properly surprised me, if I'm honest. I feel like they've the Rainbow Six experience has always been good, but it kind of feels like they've absolutely nailed on with, in terms of the experience they've put out to kind of capture. And obviously it's going to be a very different, game to Six Siege. I think the fact that they're going to run the two, it was very clear there that obviously because of the gas model with Siege and the seasons, you're going to kind of see the two that are going to continue to run parallel, because they're going to offer different experiences. So I think, from a shooter perspective, absolutely awesome. And I can't wait to Extraction. I really want to kind of be able to team up with a couple of us, maybe Kelly and then somebody else, so we can shoot some stuff in the head and kind of go blasting our way through the experience that is going to be there.
Samuel?
I think this is great news. Rainbow Six Siege is, again, I think people have been wanting to come to the platform for a while. It's been, I don't say rumoured. Rumoured seems like it was always in doubt. I think people really expected it to come with Ubisoft support Stadia. The other one, which Extraction, that was the name. I've seen a few tweets about it, but it's PvE game, isn't it? So is that teaming up with people?
I think
I didn't watch the Ubisoft event, so
think of Destiny. Or
okay, but there's space. Yeah,
there's space. I would say Killing Floor, but I'm not sure. Have you played Killing Floor?
That's not a reference I'd get, unfortunately.
Basically, you're going to be in a wee building. You have to go hunt down the zombies. I'm calling them zombies or whatever they are. That sort of thing. And you team up and do that.
That sounds good. The thing I'm worried about, and I've seen other people slightly concerned about it, is the crossplay on Rainbow Six Siege. At least as a competitive PvP shooter, this won't be the case as much for Extraction. But if Stadia and Luna are being lobbied in with PC players, does that mean that regardless of whether you're using a Stadia controller or keyboard and mouse or whatever, you'll be on the same lobby as PC people who will be using keyboard and mouse?
That is the question to be asked. What I actually really liked about this crossplay announcement, Stadia's actually tweeted out, and they actually mentioned the other platforms and PC, and they actually mentioned Luna as well.
Luna by name.
Yeah, yes. I think that is absolutely brilliant, and I think that should be encouraged across all platforms. So, absolutely, loads of kudos towards Stadia with that.
I was challenged about this. I don't actually think Xbox have mentioned PlayStation by name that much, or vice versa. To be fair, Xbox are the ones that immediately spring to mind because they came out about
like the
PlayStation.
Is available right now.
Stop it!
That's one for the outtakes. That's one for the outtakes.
Yes.
What? I've lost my train of thought. Xbox mentioning PlayStation in their stuff. So Xbox came out recently and talked about how PlayStation are making people buy games twice by bringing them out on PlayStation and bringing them out on PC. I don't personally get the logic in that argument, but they referenced PlayStation but didn't outright say Sony or PlayStation are doing this or anyone working at PlayStation. Xbox and PlayStation sort of keep themselves to themselves, whereas Stadia mentioning Luna in a positive light, giving them a feature as well. I think is brilliant to see in the cloud gaming area.
Yeah, and I just want to shout out Caseball's point as well. It hasn't been officially confirmed, but yes, Heartland is coming because the beta's there, but they haven't actually. It's one of them weird sort of situations where we've had a couple over the last couple of whiles. I think that's a real good positive sign, just like Avatar as well. What else was there in the? Oh, yes, we have to mention this. Sammy has said that he is going to be streaming this game, and we are going to put the copyright where he's not going to be playing the sounds. Just Dance is coming as well.
I'm not doing a muted Just Dance stream. There's no point in that. I might as well not do one at all, so I'm not going to do one. Sorry, guys.
Well, that's boring.
You got away with that?
No.
No?
I will be coming in to sing the music. No, I'm not doing. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing
that. Okay, I'm doing one. Yeah. Camera might be off, but
yeah. Yeah, Just Dance is coming back again. Great to see. Ubisoft
returning series.
Yeah, returning series from
Good point.
Ubisoft. That is
yes, from Ubisoft, but this is, and I'm sure we'll get onto this soon. There really wasn't that much else this weekend about Stadia, apart from in the Ubisoft event.
Bar that we tweet from that one day of that dinosaur game.
That dinosaur game. I also think I spotted something else. This is that dinosaur game, Instinction. Looks
like it is coming to Stadia as well. I'll get this news out from the way. I was told not to do this news, but I'm doing it anyway. What? I just feel.
Yeah, go on, man.
I just feel like I have to do it just to give it a fair reflection. Sean Francis Roy, who used to work at Stadia, has now moved on to GFN. That is where he has ended up. That GFN's GeForce now. So that is just me saying that's where he's ended up. So there is going to be lots of movement. Can I just say this here? This is normal. This is completely and utterly normal.
Yeah.
People going from one company to the other. That's just how the industries work.
It is indeed. And there's a lot of love in chat for Sammy to do a shirtless Just Dance stream.
I'll do a shirtless one, but again, the camera will be turned off for everyone else's sake as well as mine.
I'm going to raise the stakes.
Give it. Are you going to go down the hot tub?
You're not.
No. You add in the hot tub. I'll say the wine as well. So hot tub wine.
I don't want to throw up over my camera, which won't be turned on anyway. So why I'm doing it in front of my camera.
So there we go. That is the announcement. Is Sammy is doing a Just Dance stream in a hot tub, shirtless while drinking wine. There we go. No. It has. My fist is down. My foot is down. It's done.
We need to think of a really good charity for that one. I'm sorry.
I'm sure we can find one.
Yes.
Not that good. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So there we go. It has now been decided, and Sammy is loving it. Sammy is completely loving it.
Am I? Okay.
Maker will do it.
Hey, Maker, good man.
So there we go. Moving on. Was there any other Ubisoft games? Well, I remember. I don't think so. That would
going to touch on Far Cry 6, or is that obvious?
That doesn't count. Obviously, that doesn't count. Who counts that? Yes, Far Cry 6. I'll give my opinions at the end, but I think I've already stated being on our stream, but I will reiterate them. Sammy, you didn't really watch the Far Cry 6 one?
I'm not. No, I didn't watch either the Ubisoft event or the separate event we did for Far Cry 6 a few weeks ago. But has to be said, decent game. Again, a returning series, FPS, not sports, so a bit different. What was the announcement? Was you could play some of the old villains.
That's in the season pass. And remember, if you're Ubisoft Plus subscriber, you get access to the full shebang. So you do. So that is you'll be able to access that. So, sorry, Sammy. I'm just
no, that's pretty much it. And describing it a lot better than I probably would, because I don't really know what I'm talking about when it comes to Far Cry. I know one of the guys called Pagan. Is that right? And that's about as far as I get. I know
it's close to that. I can't pronounce names. So you're asking me who can't pronounce names?
There's a couple of twins in one of them, but I don't think they were mentioned. basically, I followed social media for a little bit, and I've seen the thumbnails of the games. That's about as far as my knowledge goes. And of course, I've been watching Happy play through Far Cry 5.
But don't mention the Far Cry 5 stuff. We're trying to hide that now. We're trying to hide that.
We're not. We've got a good series of the first part of Far Cry 5.
Yeah, the first part, yes. It's nearly as good as My Child of Light. Play along. But don't mention that either.
I never mentioned Child of Light until you did.
Oh,
Yes.
dear.
Do we want to have this out now? Yeah.
Yes. Barry, Far Cry.
Yes, I obviously as part of the sub, I think it's probably going to be the best way to consume it. I think that's probably with kind of quite a lot of the Ubisoft titles. You know, when they come thick and fast, if you're having to shell out for them versus the cost of the subscription, I think that's where you are probably quids in. But for me, I think from a game perspective, I'm really looking forward to being able to experience the story element. Particularly kind of seeing how the elements with Giancarlo Esposito pans out, because he is awesome at being a villain, even though he maintains he's not a villain. So I am looking forward to kind of seeing how the story. I think we know how it's going to play, because obviously it's a Far Cry series game, so you kind of know what you're going into. I think the best thing to say is you are kind of going to be experiencing it for the story, rather than maybe for kind of being knocked out the park visuals and kind of anything different in terms of kind of gameplay and controls, really.
Yeah, my takeaway from the Far Cry 6 showings over E3 was I wasn't convinced is probably too strong of the word. I wasn't feeling Far Cry, and I thought it was going to get lost. I still think it's going to get lost this fall, autumn, this winter, whatever time it is, with all the other games coming out. But I think it's going to do well in Stadia. My impressions of it have improved, and it's not because of Far Cry 6, the main game. It is that, as Sammy has touched on, the Season Pass. The Season Pass looks absolutely class. You're going to be going around playing as the villains. That has me really excited, because I want to actually do that. I said this on the Ubisoft stream as well, that I actually want a game where you're an actual proper villain, not these half-hearted sort of villains. I want a game where you're the full-on bad guy, and yeah, that's the whole sort of thing. You're not a bad guy who turns good. You're just out and out, and you have to just continue to do that. See, I bleep it out. Don't bleep it out.
No, that's fair.
Yeah. So I'm interested in the Far Cry 6, but it's more when the expansions actually hit, so we can get into that sort of thing. So it's going to be a wait for me, and that's even if I had a Ubisoft Plus as well, I would be waiting, because I would want to experience it. And believe it or not, I know I play a lot of games and all this sort of stuff. I do like doing them all in one sort of blast sort of thing. Ruben's given us warnings here for 40 minutes. What's this about?
He's doing timekeeping duties.
Yeah, I think he's got a match he wants to watch or something. I don't know. Yeah.
It's already on. It's in.
Is it already on?
Yeah, it kicked off at 8 o'clock.
I can go as long as we want, then, gentlemen.
Yeah. Moving on. Was there anything else that I have missed from the Ubisoft conference before we get controversial, which is probably going to happen shortly?
From Ubisoft, I don't think we had anything else. No.
Okay.
I think the obvious thing is, yeah, that was it for Stadia, really, in terms of new games.
Okay. This E3. Before we get stuck into it, how do you think this E3 has went for Stadia? And by Stadia is included in E3 because it is a platform. Luna is included in E3 because that is a platform. GeForce Now is included as well because it's a platform. They may not have shows, but there is games here, and there has been an absolute ton of games coming. So how do you feel E3 has went for who? I'm in charge tonight. Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Apparently you are. Yeah. Whose idea is that? Yeah.
Sammy.
I think you've got to judge this on, because you mentioned Luna and GeForce Now, you've got to judge this on where each of those platforms wants to be. I think in terms of Luna, because Luna and Stadia got roughly the same amount of press coverage, the same amount of game announcements, same amount of logos on there. But because Stadia is at the moment trying to market themselves a lot wider, a lot further, it hasn't been the best weekend for Stadia compared to others. I mean, to compare all the way up to the likes of Game Pass and Xbox Cloud Gaming, or xCloud, or whatever they're calling themselves this week. I think Stadia has left itself a little bit behind after this weekend.
Barry, don't worry, I'm going to be giving mine. I'm not going to be ducking, by the way.
Good. I should hope not. There is no ducking on this show. I think the first thing to say is it fell in line with expectation. I think I went into E3 with the expectation that realistically, in traditional fashion, we probably weren't going to see many logos apart from maybe the obvious place. So I think realistically, kind of what my expectations were going into it is exactly what I've got out of it. I've not sat there and gone, wow, it's blown me away. I mean, I still don't think they've been present enough, if I'm honest with you. I mean, Sammy, you were talking then about kind of each of those platforms in kind of where they want to be. I think if you probably look at each of the announcements in terms of where the platforms maybe want to be, I think you probably ask yourself the question, where do Stadia want to be? Because I think it's felt to me like others have had more of a presence around this event, or they've been more active, or they've grabbed a little bit of spotlight here and there. Whereas I don't really think that Stadia did that across this E3 weekend. With the exception of the fact that obviously they were kind of tweeting stuff out when they knew there was kind of stuff coming to the platform, which was good. I think there still had to be a presence. They had to be front of mind. And I think Zero Games said it actually in the chat. People not knowing about Stadia will not know about Stadia. And I think that is exactly the thing. If you are already a subscriber, you're already aware of it, you've gone into E3 and you've kind of come out and you've kind of said, okay, great, I've got a load of Ubisoft games coming. That's kind of what I expected. If you are maybe kind of distant or slightly on the outside of that, it's done nothing to say, hello, here we are. We're a platform. You need to pick up our controller. You need to log into Chrome and kind of jump out and try the service. And I do think that's something that was needed.
Okay. Here we go. I think Stadia has went backwards following the safety. I am concerned, and everybody knows my views on Stadia. To start off with, I am concerned. Everybody else is out there pushing forward, and Stadia is either staying still or, in my view, is actually going slightly backwards. We had Xbox come out and blow things up. We have to be completely frank there.
Yep. Xbox knocked it out of the park.
we had the GeForce Now show last night, because every 5 minutes it was like an advert. Come play this on GFN. Come play this on GFN. Amazon with Luna. Two of the biggest talked about games coming out from E3, I'm not saying the most talked about, were two Amazon Game Studios games. And Stadia's Connect happened last night at Ubisoft. And Ubisoft are, as someone has said on Twitter, I forget who it was, are the Switzerland of the gaming world, and they are just going there and putting things on absolutely everywhere. Stadia just feels like it is treading water or just going back compared to the other platforms. And we've just seen this today as well. Luna is also kicking off with Prime Day, and they are linking that into Prime, which they are going to really push forward. Again, this is going to be fun. I don't even know where I was going there. I got distracted there.
We mentioned the GFN show. I'm talking about how you mentioned GFN every 5 minutes between every single game advert. Isn't that kind of what all these platforms need to be doing? When you saw on Xbox, they were talking about Game Pass and cloud gaming in between every single game. You mentioned to people tuning into E3, gamers who might not necessarily know about Stadia. We've had a couple of games announced for Stadia. If you ask them after this conference what's Stadia, I bet you they still don't know. And that's kind of the point. This is why we talk about getting your logos out on games. We had games that were already announced for Stadia, games that had already been launched on Stadia. Think about Wave Break, which was on the Summer Games Fest show. Get Packed was on something, I can't remember what now. Orcs Must Die was on the same show that we keep talking about GFN for. These are games that are already out on Stadia, can already prove that Stadia works, as we know, but they're not publicizing that fact.
And I think it's interesting you mentioned those games, because I think games like Orcs Must Die, Get Packed from Coatsink, Humankind, in the course of this weekend, these games that have kind of been locked into Stadia have all, obviously, don't get me wrong, I know exclusives happen, so I'm not saying, oh my God, it's the end of the world. But I think when you kind of look at it as a platform where you had little gems, where you were in a position where you could say, only we have got these games, or only we are getting this game, etc. Like Humankind, massive deal, made out about that. And, we had the exclusive demo for 3 days, at the back end of last year, which, was kind of only available on Stadia. And here we are now, we've hit E3. And then all of a sudden, in the past couple of weeks, Bomberman's gone cross-platform and into other areas. Get Packed is going, and it's getting new content. Wave Break, Humankind, you've got all of these games that all of a sudden I feel personally we should have been making a big deal about on the platform, have now kind of gone out to new pastures to go and grow their audience. And that for me fundamentally is kind of where you ultimately, yes, there is a wider audience out there, and I get that the devs want to have their games at the maximum exposure. But if you look at that, then they've started that journey with Stadia, and they've then kind of moved past that journey to go out to the other platforms to hit the level of audiences and the level of exposure that they need.
Yeah, the reason why this is important, and I think it is worth talking about, the community out there is divided in Twitter, Reddit, and other places. This isn't me just stirring things up for the sake of stirring, and I was trying to make that very clear in my poll. You go to Reddit, you go on Twitter, and even my poll was basically, it was Brexit tight, joke alert, with how close it was. It was basically 50-50, and this was before the Ubisoft conference. I'm going to be running it again on Thursday or Friday, probably Thursday. I will get it out there again for people to vote on it. And this is why it is important to get out there, because we have had a complete number of really key games not having a logo on them. If these games come to Stadia, absolutely brilliant, but they have lost out on so much marketing. Elden Ring, within 1 day, this is just Twitter, had 3 million views. If this comes to Stadia down the line, that is people missing out on that. going, oh, this was coming to Stadia. I maybe didn't need to get a Series X or a PlayStation 5 because it was going to come to Stadia. And people who are actually on the platform as well are would be saying, oh no, I got that because I really wanted that game. This is where we are. I'm going to be honest here. There is people who are absolutely, completely and utterly fine with the games coming to Stadia, and that is absolutely brilliant. And logo gate doesn't matter to them. But logo
and
gate,
you are allowed to have that position. You are
absolutely.
But if those games are what interests you, and you want to go for those games, then I think on Stadia is the best possible outcome.
Yeah, you need to have these out here so people can have faith in the platform, and there is a lot of faith is going out from the platform because they don't have the games. It's just real interesting how things are going out there. And I think, yes, let's talk the big elephant in the room. The Xbox event has got people's heads turned. Yesterday's Xbox event was absolutely immense. Basically, every single game, I will rephrase because it's just how we talk over here. The vast majority of the games are going to Game Pass, and they're going to Game Pass day and date. We know the Series X blades are coming this year now because one of the games going to Game Pass is only Series X or Series S/X, so we know that is imminent. This is about to kick off here, and I don't want to go down this road again because I've talked about it so much. Stadia is looking pricey now compared to Xbox. Yes, you can buy your games on Stadia if you which is people prefer to buy.
You're talking about solely the subscription method, so Stadia Pro versus Game Pass Ultimate.
Yep, and the value option there when you can get a hell of a lot of the Stadia library on Game Pass now, on Game Pass for Cloud. Things are going to get a bit spicy, and I am hoping that there is some big things down the line for Stadia, unless they are going extremely, extremely long term, because it is looking very hard for them for the games. I think you want to cover this point. Can you hear where I'm going here?
I think so, yeah.
Shall we go down that one now?
You carry on, go for it.
This brings us back to the Linux and having to port to Stadia, and that is the Achilles heel of Stadia at this moment.
How easy it is for the devs to develop again for Stadia base versus the value they get in people playing their game.
Yeah, it's Kumnar. That's a brilliant question there.
It is. I should bring it up and have a go for it.
If you go, give me a platform to try cloud gaming. This isn't me stirring. I would say get the free pass for GFN this weekend and play Control with RTX. And you can do that for absolutely free. Just show you where cloud is going. That is me being honest there. If you're talking about long term, or if that offer was not there, I would still say Stadia at this moment in time.
I think based on just E3, if I didn't have any knowledge of cloud gaming this time last week, and I'd seen all the E3 stuff, I'd be a lot more interested in what Xbox are doing rather than what Ubisoft are putting on Stadia.
Yeah, I after the announcement of kind of the blades and kind of xCloud or Xbox game streaming in a browser, coupled with the E3 announcement, if I was already potentially kind of a console player, let's say, for example, or whatever, and you wanted to dabble in the cloud, then I think the logical one for me would be xCloud, purely because if you've got Android, it's already in your subscription, so you can kind of try cloud on your mobile, and then obviously, give it a few weeks, let's say, you've got the ability then to kind of fire it up in a browser and kind of see there, and it's not cost you anything, even though I know obviously you can kind of you can pick up a free trial for Stadia. What you might find is with the free to play, you've kind of got Destiny, Bomberman, and a couple of others. Whereas obviously if you've got the Xbox subscription, you've got a number of kind of household franchises to actually properly, truly gauge where the cloud is right now.
Yeah, I think we're getting close to the interesting time when these Series X blades come out. I think that's when we're going to get a big, massive comparison on where xCloud is. I don't really want to talk too much about xCloud, but I think it's just where things are within the Stadia community as well, because there's just, I think, I'm going to say it, I think if Stadia is your only platform and that's the same platform you have got, that you're invested in, if you're a big, massive Stadia fan, you may be a bit, not spooked is probably the wrong word, but you're interested to see what Xbox are doing and how it's actually going to affect Stadia. Come this winter, you're going to have so many games on Game Pass, and these games are no joke of a game. And we've also got some of these wee smaller games, which I would have called Stadia titles, coming as well. Like what's that? Animal Crossing and the fishing game, Millgrove Valley or something. Yeah, people know what I'm talking about. It's a fishing game made by Coach Sing.
One person knows what you're talking about.
Bay.
There you go. And it is right there. The problem with cloud gaming is everybody's experience is different. And xCloud, I think the variations, as a lot of people have said in chat here, vary from game to game. Some games work extremely well. Other games do not work well at all. And I have said this, and people are laughing when I say this. xCloud works better for me than Stadia from a pure cloud gaming perspective, as in just going into it, logging in, not having lag, not having artifacting and things like that. xCloud is beating Stadia for me from my place. But I want to get back onto Stadia, because we're talking too much about the other stuff. But unfortunately, that's just the nature here. Stadia, I think, needs more logos out there, because it's just, people are getting upset about where this game is, where that game is. And we've seen some, as I would say, biggish sort of names in the Stadia community say that as well, that they're disappointed and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. And it does come back to how I can't think how many times we've said this now, about the importance of logos or letting people know that games are coming, because if they don't come, then they're going to start to get curious about what they could get elsewhere. And that kind of is a little bit of a, depending on your approach to gaming, if you're kind of like we are, where we've got every service known to man available to us, then
not quite
almost, bar one.
I had to get that in there.
Indeed. Then obviously, we've got complete freedom and complete choice, because we physically have all of those platforms available to us. And that means that we can choose right there and then where we kind of spend our money. If you are somebody like Duncan was talking about, who is literally incredibly heavily invested in Stadia and is spending kind of hundreds of pounds a year on the platform, on purchasing games as well as the sub, and you don't get a big game, or there is uncertainty over that game, then it certainly causes you to then go and kind of look outside of what is your normal circle. And I think sometimes if we look at that from a sheer, I guess, customer and kind of business perspective in terms of that relationship, when you're kind of selling to customers, you want to get people logged in.
Bold of you to think we'll only do 2 hours. Yeah.
Oh, God. You want to get people locked in and spending money as much as they can, so that they almost, to a point, feel like they don't want to leave the system. Not because you're holding them to ransom, but because they appreciate what they've got. The minute they start to look elsewhere, it generally kind of leads to problem, because they start to look at what is there in the competition, what could they get. And as with most things, when you're kind of locked in one particular situation, when you look outside of that, things always look better because they're new, they're fresh, they're shiny. It's a different experience.
The grass is always greener.
Exactly. You know,
whether or not it actually is. Yeah.
And that's the thing, and that can kind of be sometimes the biggest problem, because if you do step out and have an absolutely spot on experience with another service, then as a consumer, your mind will then start to go, hang on a minute, I've just had that really good experience there. Is that normal? Actually, just let me try another game on that service. Oh, yeah, actually, it's the same as the first one. Let me grab another one. Let me add my Ubisoft Plus and let me try that. Actually, my performance is better here. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, in a period of months, you're kind of slowly regressing from being on that platform that you've been really heavily locked into.
Yeah, this is on the idea that someone would only play on one service.
Yes, yeah.
I should add. And of course, what's to stop the inverse of that happening? People playing on GeForce Now or xCloud or Luna, deciding there's a game on Stadia they want to play and trying that out and finding out the tech works better for them. That's brilliant. The thing that I find stops them from that is people don't know about Stadia because, again, it comes down to it's not being put out there to the wider world. The Stadia Twitter is very active with telling us about games that are coming up to the platform, engaging with us. There's people who use the platform, but you're not seeing the logos on the trailers, even when the games are out on the platform. And it's just not having the attention brought to it at these big events like E3 and Summer Games Fest.
Yeah, I think that this is something I've been talking about for a while. Surprised I talk about lots of things for a while, and everybody else seems to catch up with things out there.
Duncan the Prophet.
Yes, Duncan the Prophet. Yeah, dead on. One of the ones I have been talking about is subscription models are going to take off for cloud. It is just completely and utterly natural. And that is why I think Stadia really needs to either expand its pro offering. 30 games is a good offering, but it's not a great offering.
It's a game a day for a 1 month free trial.
Yep, exactly. It's a good offering, but not a great offering. It needs to really expand out there and bring in some more bigger hitters, because at this moment in time, Luna is up to, I think it's 80 games. Is it 60 or is it 70 or?
I think it's approaching the 80s now, isn't it?
It's approaching the 80 game mark. Game Pass is over 100. Yes, you can buy your
Game Pass was close to 200.
Yeah, it's actually over that.
That's 263, I think.
Yeah, but it's easier.
Not anymore.
Yeah. The value. This is what I'm trying to get at. It's what we're going to see in cloud is you're going to just jump between the services where the games are, and if the games aren't different enough or there isn't enough variation, you're going to just stick with one or the other. It's the Disney Plus, Netflix, and stuff like that. This is why we need to see Stadia get a hell of a lot more games so they can build up their library, so they can expand their pro out, and etc. It's the slow rock going down the hill, which then speeds up and gets more people involved and more people playing. This is a disappointment in my view this evening, and it's, believe it or not, it isn't the big games I'm more disappointed about. It's actually the smaller games, the indie games. We're not seeing any logos into, because there's been some absolutely cracking looking indie games, and which would be perfect for Stadia, and we're not seeing them on there. Battlefield, I think, and I think that whoever designed them maps needs to go and learn some more tricks and how they actually.
Oh boy. This week will be controversial, he said. He didn't say why.
You know I'm only messing. Yeah, you know I'm only messing, but the Battlefield one was a big, massive one, and I think that actually shook a lot of people. And then you've got the smaller or slightly smaller scale ones like Guardians of the Galaxy, and which I was expecting after they got announced. I was expecting that to go to Stadia.
Well, whilst you touch on it, obviously, because we were talking about the EA kind of coverage that was in the press on last week's What Has Stadia Done Now? Just a very genuine question. Were you shocked that Battlefield did not have a Stadia logo on it, given the fact that EA, and I know, Sammy, we've spoken about this kind of offline, but given the fact that EA themselves said that multiplayer is not great on Stadia, are we surprised that a multiplayer game or focus game is not being announced on the platform?
Oh, who was that to? Was that to Sammy first or me first?
Both of you, any one of you, whoever wants to pick it up, go for it.
I'm trying to not to say too much here. I was not shocked it did not come. For
No.
But it's disappointing because games like that legitimize the service, and that's more of the concern. If you have, it's like, oh my goodness, Battlefield is not on Stadia, rather than, oh my god, there's nobody playing Battlefield in Stadia. At least Battlefield is on Stadia in that place, and you can actually build that up and maybe have an Ubisoft Plus situation where there's EA Pro or EA Play on it, and just get the wheels going down the line.
The reason I asked that question is there was a buzz and there was a great prominence about it within the Stadia community, because EA spoke about the fact that they tried Stadia. They mentioned cloud gaming and it kind of be in the future. And I just, for me personally, a kind of what was last week's news, and I know you talk about it with games all the time, is what's coming next. But last week's news, EA stance was positive because they were talking cloud gaming in the future. They were talking Stadia. Battlefield announcement comes and it's like, oh man, we've got no Battlefield. But
I think looking at it, just taking those two events on their own doesn't make cloud gaming in general look great. It doesn't make EA look particularly trustworthy either. Sorry.
No, here's the thing. This is what we're talking about this last week. The wording on the EA thing was, it didn't mention Stadia. It mentioned cloud gaming.
Then he was asked about Stadia. He said he tried it. He was very positive towards it. People put 2 and 2 together and ended up with 7.
Yes.
On that. And with hindsight, we can say that. I think when they're saying cloud gaming's the future, I think they do still realise that. They still know that. But we don't know the lead times for Battlefield. We don't know when this was first thought up and when the platforms were decided upon. It might be that they weren't as convinced cloud gaming would work at that point. I think we'll see the workings out of those statements in that interview, not so much in the first 2 or 3 days after the interview goes live, but more so in the next 2 or 3 years in terms of what games EA bring to any cloud service. Obviously, they've got a few games on Stadia. Support they're partnered with Xbox Game Pass.
Yes,
again, we've gone back to them, but
and there's some games on there, and this goes back to why games are needed now as well. If Stadia goes on for these many years down the line, if they don't have these games, how are they going to get people onto it? And it's you need these games.
But to put the only reason people are putting those two things together, the EA, the interview with CEO and the Battlefield 2042 announcement, is because they happen within a few days of each other. Whereas I don't think what was said in the statement actually really has a chance to work out over the next few days. It's more has a chance to work itself out over the next few years.
Yeah,
if you're seeing whatever the next Battlefield, is it the 7th Battlefield game that will come out after this one? Assuming there is one, which, let's be fair, probably will be. The next Battlefield, if that if that starts knocking on my door, clout.
See, that brings us back to some of the games which have had series on, or the prior versions of it, because we actually had a big announcement here, which, again, there's some games I am shocked about not coming, and there's games I'm not that shocked about. I wasn't that shocked about Battlefield coming. It was still a surprise, but I wasn't like, oh my goodness, I'm really, really shocked, because I think we all sort of know what the other two EA games are going to be. It's going to be FIFA and Madden. It has to be FIFA and Madden. The game which shocked me was Wonderlands, which is the Borderlands game, not coming to Stadia. The Guardians of the Galaxy not coming to Stadia, which is a Square Enix.
That's a big shock, and I think a big miss.
A Square Enix game not coming to Stadia. We still don't know what's happening with the 2K games, because that's what I've got my eyes on, the 2K ones. Because
it's about time we start hearing about. Actually, I'm going to start searching up this new golf game. It's PGA. Oh no, they've renamed it, but I'll go for 2K22. It'll be that way, somewhere.
Yeah, it's all fun out there. It is just absolutely interesting and intriguing. And yes, Jim, we had that bit of joke on Twitter earlier about Mafia. Is Mafia coming? This is why my eyes are peeled about NBA. If NBA does not come and WWE doesn't come and the PGA doesn't come, I think there will be even more question marks raised. If people are raising question marks, if big developers are not supporting Stadia, you have to be open and frank about it. I know there is a lot of hype and there's a lot of excitement out there about Ubisoft. Here is a fact for you. And this is a fact. You can buy Ubisoft Plus from Ubisoft themselves and jump straight into Luna and Stadia without paying them we'll go American, a dime. You can just jump in and play on their services for completely and utterly free.
They don't get the monetization.
Exactly. They may get some monetizations if you buy some cosmetic things, but if you jump into them games for the Ubisoft Plus and not upgrade to Pro, you're just using the 1080 stream. Stadia and Luna both get nothing, and that is not sustainable.
Yeah, no, agreed.
And we've said the same about GeForce Now in the past.
And that's why there's queues and things like that in GFM.
Yeah. And I think it's worth just touching on Endeavour's just kind of commented in the chat. Are they confirmed not coming or just not confirmed coming? I think obviously they're not confirmed not coming. There's no logos, but I think what I would say to manage expectations is if you don't see an announcement at that particular point, I would keep in your mind that game is then effectively not coming, because at the point that they've hit the announcement, they've hit press release. And I know we see later announcements with games, but I think to avoid speculation, to avoid kind of frustration, upset, anything like that, I think when we're seeing these game announcements, if you have in the front of your mind, Stadia is not listed, and then go with the ethos that it's not coming to Stadia, then you will be less, or if it didn't come, you would be less disappointed. There's less things to get frustrated about, because I think that's some of the things we've seen in the past before, when you kind of, it's confirmed not coming, and then you kind of see people have conversations and go, yeah, but don't worry about it. It'll come. Don't worry. It's coming. It's coming. And then kind of everybody sits and watches and goes, oh, hang on. It might come. It might not come. It might come. Yeah, it should come. And then it doesn't come. And then everybody's like, oh, for God's sake, it's not arrived on the platform. And I think we just need to try and avoid that as a community, if I'm honest.
I think so. I think if it was coming to Stadia, my logic is they've just had E3 Summer Games Fest. They launched the game there. There was the perfect time to stick the Stadia logo on. And again, I keep coming back to put the logos on the traders. It's not difficult to work out which side of the argument I come down on there, but There's a perfect opportunity for people to know the game's coming to Stadia so they can make their buying choices appropriately. And it wasn't there, therefore that can't be one of your buying choices.
Yeah, it's again, this is what I love just talking. Everybody has their different opinions and things like that. Logo, have put my controversial stuff out there again. Logos only matter. Logos matter when they're there, apparently, and logos don't matter when they're not there by a lot of people out there, which is absolutely and totally fine as well. But I just find it funny that there is a lot of people get carried away when there's a Stadia logo on, but there isn't. It's fine. It doesn't matter. And things like the logos matter. And I think this week has absolutely shown it both in the positive and in the negative. When we seen Avatar have a Stadia logo on it, everybody got really excited. When the Battlefield one, for example, didn't have, everybody got deflated. Or a lot of people got deflated because it didn't look like it was coming. This is why logos matter, and there is no community out there like the Stadia community for the highs and the absolute lows. and Barry is absolutely on
distracted.
point.
It's a word I'm looking.
Barry is on point here with the logos. For me, if you do not see a logo, I wouldn't get your hopes built up that it's coming, but I wouldn't completely rule it out of the equation either. But I wouldn't. I would probably err on the side of caution, and from it is Kumar. Yeah, I think that is an absolute bang on there. Logos for the first year. It didn't matter as much. Now we're into the second and into the third and fourth years now, because there is games getting announced for 2022, 2023, and after tonight, 2024, with the Xbox news. We really need to see these Stadia logos on it.
Ruben's trying to upset me.
Yes, I can see that.
The second goal is the one, the only part of that game I've seen, isn't it?
We don't need to talk about it. We can just move along.
Yeah, but
we are
just
here
to confirm,
to talk about
that's the only part of the game I've seen.
Okay, excellent.
I just want to take this Gandara's point here. Stadia needs another 12 months for the new Android apps numbers to kick in. And then at the same time, you have Xbox competing at the same time. You have GFN competing at the same time. And you have Amazon competing at the same time for these people. And again, we keep on forgetting about, you've got Facebook competing as well, because we keep on forgetting about the moves they're making behind the scenes as well. When we say we'll kick it into the long grass for another 12 months, you're kicking it into the long grass for everybody else as well. And as we have seen I would even say the last 6 months, the 6 months to a year, the people who have been chasing Stadia, and we can say that they have been chasing Stadia, they are making absolutely massive strides as time goes on.
Yeah.
And
we're talking about xCloud, GeForce Now. Those people they've been chasing Stadia for a while, and they're starting to pull level and even ahead.
Yes, and that is an issue.
And I think that's the thing. By being ahead of the curve, by kind of leading the pack, it's good in a sense, because you're first out the gate. I guess in some fashion in terms of the way you approach it, but it's very much filled with risk, that if you are kind of that one at the front, unless you can kind of keep pace, the others are naturally going to catch you. And I think that's right at this particular point in time. I think that's maybe what we're experiencing a little bit right now, is you've seen sort of Stadia come out, they've impressed with their tech, they've spent time building the library, and now all of a sudden we're coming round kind of a bend, shall we say, and now the others are starting to kind of catch up, and they're starting to kind of put themselves in the the same arena, the same kind of level of quality, the same level of offering. And then that's obviously when now is the time where what you should see is the responses. You've either prepared and you are ready to kick on, and you're going to kind of then continue pulling those people that are with you along, or you're kind of going to nestle in and sit in the middle of the pack and, Oh dear.
Yeah,
that's we've seen a lot about Stadia losing their timed exclusivity on games like Super Mario Man R Online, Orcs Must Die 3. Do we think that Stadia would benefit by having another wave of games with timed exclusivity or full exclusivity, so that they're able to still say, look, we are the only place to play game X, game Y, game Z?
You can only play Resident Evil Village on Stadia for 1 year. Would people jump onto Stadia to play Resident Evil Village for that 1 year? Absolutely.
People would. I wouldn't, but people would.
That is the point. You need these exclusive games, and you need to. You want to use the M word, which is a swear word in Stadia Land. Market it that you can only play. You can only play it for a year. The exclusive games matter. Is there going to be PlayStation and Nintendo fans jumping on to Halo this week? Or this week, we wish. This year, using xCloud? I'm going to tell you, absolutely, they are. They are going to be jumping on, and I think we're going to see a big upsurge on people using xCloud when Halo, Forza, and all these games sort of release. If Halo gets a key marquee title, could it be a Monster Hunter? Something to get people's talking. People would absolutely rephrase this here. People would absolutely kick off a massive stink, and you've seen it time and time again. I'm not going to buy like the big famous one, Left 4 Dead 2, and like the week Left 4 Dead 2 launches, everybody who said they weren't going to do it, we were all playing it. It's people will go where the games are. You bring the games, people will come. And you need to have a draw, and you get that big one in, and people will come to the platform. Okay.
Yep. I wasn't sure whether you were carrying on or whether you were finished. But yeah, I 100% know where you're coming from.
Yeah. I wanted actually to cover this, but I think it would go a bit
We briefly covered it, but yeah, let's go through it again.
Okay. I think at this moment in time, Stadia's reputation is mud. It is absolutely awful. If Stadia's reputation is mud, and I've got the reputation of mud in the Stadia community, what the hell does that make me? So, I do not know, but never mind that point.
Ladies and gentlemen, Duncan's mind.
Yes, exactly. I think they're using it as a relaunch because, as we've seen this week, we've sort of worked out how many copies 100 days has sold on Stadia.
We have a rough idea, yes.
We've got a rough idea. I think they're using this, and they took their money, they've invested. You can see Wavebreak have really smartly invested in getting Weezer on board, which the update, both of these updates are coming to Stadia as well, which is absolutely great to see. And I think they're embarrassed to say it's on Stadia because of Stadia's reputation, and they're trying to hide it away. Getpack, to be absolutely fair, they have put it on their logos afterwards, or their things afterwards, but when they've been actually talking about it, Stadia seems to have been missing. I think they're just trying to do a big, massive relaunch. Anybody else? Someone disagree with me, please. Someone disagree!
I can't disagree with you, because I think it's the very logical, unless there's kind of, which I can't necessarily imagine there is, but unless there's some kind of marketing agreement that they're not allowed to mention previous platforms that the game's been available on, I think it has to be the fact that they are taking this as an opportunity to reassert the game and almost kind of say, okay, we've launched it once, let's do this again and let's kind of start fresh. And yeah, I do think, as much as I know you love it when we disagree with you, Duncan, you've used a hell of a lot of logic there, and I can see your point, and you have made it very difficult. Yes,
I don't like that when you disagree with me. It's not good. It's not good for me. It's not good for the show. It's not good for anybody.
It's not good for the community, really. But
yeah, it's absolutely mad here. I would love Stadia to relaunch, as people are saying here in the chat, as a submodel first, but with a sub to buy. You can buy the other games, but most of the games are there. Caseball is saying exclusive, very lot of money. Like I've said so many times, Google should do whatever it takes to get GTA, Call of Duty, Battlefield, FIFA 2020 or 22 down date, or just buy active.
You'll struggle to find anyone who disagrees with that.
Yeah. See, this is the thing. It's a really, really hard decision. Stadia has
those are the big games. They would attract people. You talk about that. You can add Fortnite, Rocket League, some of the free to play stuff as well. Those are the big games. Those are what are going to draw people and play this platform. It's not.
And I think, is it worth? Sorry, Duncan. I'll let you go.
No, you go.
I was just going to say that it's really interesting. I know he's in chat, but obviously, kind of behind the scenes, Maker highlighted to us that there was that crazy stat that came out last week, wasn't there? That was it something like 95% of a particular age bracket in the UK are playing free to play only.
Yes, and how many free to play games are on Stadia? It is Destiny.
5?
No. I genuinely think it's 2.
I think I've been a little bit generous there, haven't I?
Yeah. I know we said plenty of games should be free to play, but at the moment it's just Destiny 2 and Super Bomberman R Online.
I don't know. There's something else.
There is something else. I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
I know we talked about Outcast. It should be free to play. Pac-Man should be free to play.
There's a couple.
They're not yet.
There's a couple more which have completely slipped my mind.
Let us know in chat. Crater. Kumar's been absolutely brilliant all stream.
Yep.
With stuff in chat. Thank you very much. Sorry, Crater. How do I forget Crater?
Yes. GFN know that's their model, and they're going to be hitting triple figures soon with free to play games, and I think it needs to be a real pusher. Super Animal Royale is coming to Stadia.
That's coming free to play.
Okay, yes. I'm not saying people have done this or not done this. If you maybe want to get some free stuff for Stadia, if you're just a Stadia player, if you subscribe to Game Pass for £1 or $1, you can get the super duper version of Super Animal Royale, and you can. It's because it's cross-play, cross everything, so you'll be able to pick that up when it comes to Stadia as well.
I need to do that, actually.
Yeah, I give people ideas. So I think this is a good time to wrap this up, and we will finish on that stupid video again.
It wasn't a stupid video. It was a very good video. But we will finish on that. Thanks very much for watching.
And I was just going to say, Maker's actually just put the word in properly at the end of the chat there. So,
yep. And Anders has a good point here. Can anybody tell me what platform that was?
So I've got a feeling that was one of the early cloud ones on live. Or...
Nope.
No.
Was it? I wasn't sure.
The original Xbox.
Was it the original?
the original Xbox had Splinter Cell as a timed exclusive. Again, Stadia is in an interesting place. It is being backed 100% by one major publisher in Ubisoft. We are going to get big Ubisoft games. They're coming day and date. So that is something to look forward to. And we thank you for coming here and taking part. We try to do this. We try to mix it up with everything under the sun. And we don't actually try to be controversial, but it just seems to come out like that. We just try and talk. We just talk all over the different points.
Yeah.
But yeah, as always with Stadia, there's plenty of news to fill out a week. We've just done an hour and a half, and that's actually about average for us now. And that's just on one platform. Thank you very much for joining us. Stay tuned for more.
Have a good one.
Bye.